Welcome to episode 60. Who would have thought we would have made 60 of these? Episode of The Diplomats discussing the Season 5 Nexus 5 Finals. The best online championship. Sorry to all those other competitors out there. Brought to you by diplomacybriefing.com. And since Umble's not here today, I'll just tell you that diplomacybriefing.com is a newsletter where you can get all the latest updates on diplomacy. It's absolutely free. So diplomacybriefing.com. Today we're going to do something a little different. We have two, and these guys are going to be our two main analysts of the Season 5 Nexus Finals. Umble's going to come in once a week and tell these guys where they got things wrong. That's what he told me he wants to do. But I'm not sure they're going to get much wrong. I'm going to welcome to the podcast here Audacious Hand, his first time, his inaugural mission at sea, so to speak, and Superstition back. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm well.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Well, look, I've got the very latest rankings from Nexus of best players of all time. And of course, one of our finalists, Conk, is number 1. But Superstition, you're there, number 2. Pez, number 3. Umble's number 4. He would say he hasn't played in a long time, but just below Umble is Milkman, otherwise known as our guest here, Audacious Hand. Justify this low ranking, and how can you possibly be below Umble?
Well, actually, I believe that score does not take into account my points from Season 1, possibly because I changed my name from Audacious Hand to Milkman. So I think I've got another 100 points hidden away there somewhere. More than 100. I came pretty close to making it first season. I only got to play 3 games, so once that gets factored in, I think Umble will be licking my boots as he should.
What about Superstition? Are you ahead of him?
You know, I really have no idea exactly what the total would be. I don't think so. Maybe not.
My
Definitely
Season 5 isn't in there either, so
it's not.
Played 1 game as well.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, Stitches is just a hair above me. I've always let him just win by 1 center. That's just how we are.
Well, yeah, I want to get into that in a second, but tell the people on the Nexus server, you're as Churchill would say, a mystery wrapped in a riddle, wrapped in an enigma, or words to that effect. Sometimes you're on the server, sometimes you're off the server, you're on an on phase. I guess you're on the wagon now. You've been off the wagon, but tell us how you got into diplomacy, what attracts you about diplomacy, and your style of play if you have one.
How did I get into diplomacy? Well, I was aware of the game for a long time because my father, who actually was a diplomat, he had this old leather-bound diplomacy board that I uncovered at one point, and actually had old typewriter notes of his games with his friends from the 70s or 80s. It's actually remarkable to look at how they played back then. It's just incredibly aggressive, really beyond the little kind of pussyfooting we tend to do nowadays. Not that I know that it's representative of diplomacy at the time. But I only started playing it earnestly maybe in 2018. Just started tinkering around with Backstabber. And I believe my first competitive game was actually with you. Nexus Game 1, the beginning of the Nexus era. You remember that?
It's hard to forget you playing Germany, me playing Italy, where I frankly thought you were dead to rights without a beating heart, and you go on to board top.
Actually, I soloed that.
Oh, you soloed it. Okay, yeah.
Me into my 19th center. That was really kind of you.
Well, I do give people solos. I like to do that when I'm mad. But I don't know if I could have stopped you. But you played a great. Uh, you played a wait. Was I Italy? Whatever
You
country I
were,
was.
yeah, I think I wrote poems about the treacherous green snake of the South. You were thorn in my side. I do
Yeah.
remember when you got Austria to turn on me and you telling me that in Texas you must dance with the gal that brought you or some other folksy expression that drove me insane. But then
And,
that gal promptly turned on you and just ran away with me. So yeah, it's all good. It happens. You know who else was in that first game? Nexus game one was Losers, and it is pronounced Losers, by the way, not I users. But yeah, he was England. So kind of funny.
oh,
Funny.
that is good to know. The Austria in that game, I just remember hating.
Mm-hmm.
I could not get on the page with that guy except for that one turn. So I was glad I outlasted him. I remember
Yeah,
that. That was your very first game.
that was my first competitive game, I'd say.
All right. Well, you've gone on to great success.
I
Uh,
suppose.
and well, I think you have some news here to break. At least to me, I thought Superstition here is the leader of the Hearts group, a very controversial group on the Nexus server. And I thought you were almost a founding member with him. But are you a Heart or not a Heart?
Well, I haven't played since the season 3 finals, um, and I'm afraid my heart's been broken. That
Well, that was a tough finals for you. Umble was pretty tough on you. I saw what you were trying to do there. And listeners should go back. You played Austria, and it was a challenging situation for you.
Well, I think I learned a lot, and I will apply that knowledge to the moves I see here. I will also say that I went into that finals with the mentality that I was going to solo. I wanted to become the first person to solo a finals. And I think that mentality, I'm sure that this will come up when we're looking at the moves, but it just doesn't mesh with the very significant change between regular season and the finals in Nexus, which is that, as Umble put the other day, you only really need 10 centers to win in the finals. And that really changes the dynamic because in the regular season, you string together a few solos and you're guaranteed a finals berth. Um,
Yeah, I think I suffer from the same thing. It's just way too aggressive. Way too aggressive. I just want to go. I don't want to sit around with 6 centers and wait for a stab in the last year. It's just not the way I play. So it's definitely a different thought process than the qualifiers.
Well, okay, so I just want to have one little amusing anecdote uh, and one note of a debt of gratitude to Audacious Hand here, Milkman. First, I had my sister had a medical emergency in season 3, and Milk subbed in for me and did a phenomenal job, uh, better than I could have done. He looked at my press, and it was just almost deranged what I was doing at that time in my head, and he did fantastic. So I wanted to thank you for that. And then I thought I would share with listeners. They can read the whole thing, but if you go onto Nexus and just literally search for Milkman, one of the things that's going to pop up is in the season 2 finals, Milkman was so heavily criticizing my play from the outside, validly so, I might add, that I lost it. Okay, I just mentally lost it and drafted a long note that I made the then runner of the Nexus site post, where I engage in a thing called the Protect Act and talking about Audacious Hand and his Milkman dangerous commentaries, and I went into this string of insults. And you talked about season 3, and Don, of course, the other day you talked about season 1 or 2. As we look at our players here, as I'm going to change the screen, if you care, if you're competitive at all, it can psychologically mess with you. But you guys both agree with that?
The finals?
Oh yeah,
Oh
it happened
yeah.
in season 1.
Well, I have literally not played a single game of diplomacy since the season 3 finals. I just joined a ranked conspiracy game, which proud to say I soloed, thanks to Nexus local GAT shout out. But yeah, it just rips your heart out, especially if you're going through some other stuff on the side. My God.
Well, I wrote a Tolstoy-like novel. Is the only way I could process the emotions I went through in season 2. We have some fantastic players here, as we can see on the screen, and the spring 1901 moves have occurred. And so I thought it would be a good idea to get your guys' impression of the moves, and feel free to disagree with each other. And if you don't disagree with each other, and I don't disagree with you, we know Umble's going to come in and disagree with y'all. So I want to hear some unvarnished thoughts and commentary as I switch the screen over to our map, which we should have up right now. Superstition, you want to start in the west or the east?
Oh, the West is so boring. Let's look at the East.
Let's look at the east. What do you see?
Well, you have what looks like a key, I would say. Russia's definitely playing it nice with Austria, doing that air. Looks like an air from what I can tell. The key definitely helps making sure that Juggernaut does not go into play. Pretty standard opening from Turkey, but if Italy decides they want to do a speed Lepanto and jump into AEG, it's really bad. So I don't know. It's not looking very good for Conk in my opinion, but and without Russia and Galicia, then I'm not really seeing wintergreen right off the bat. So I think it's pretty good so far. That's what I see.
Okay, Audacious Hand. I mean, no bounce in Galicia, and Venice moves to Trieste with Rome moving to Apulia. I think I have to agree. It does look like, or at least, a key Lepanto or an attempted one. Uh, I'm kind of agreeing here. Air thing might be on, and it might be bad news for Conk. Of course, we're not on the diplomatic end of it. And Conk, have you played with any of these players? Hand.
Um, well, let me begin with the move, and then I'll talk about the players, because there's like a few more details. If you look at it, it's not a traditional Key Lepanto, right? So a traditional Key Lepanto, Rome would have also moved to Venice, which adds some credibility to the attack. And actually, the Ionian Sea fleet usually moves to the Aegean to kind of get the jump on Turkey. Well, that's the classic Key Lepanto, right? And already there, it's such a recognizable move that the kind of believability of the trick is pretty low in a game like this, which is why I've worked for years on my Acid Lepanto, but we won't get into that. What the difference here is that Rome actually moves to Apulia, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, what that signals is it's either a completely unvarnished attack on Turkey. They've diplomatically isolated Turkey. They don't even want to bother hiding it. They're just going to go over there and just kick his ass. Or it could be even that Italy just decided to poke Trieste and see what happened, right? I mean, sometimes Austria will bluff and say that they're staying there, and Italy will get cheeky and see if they're telling the truth. So I'd say it's either one of those options.
I would agree with you there that it could have been a poke. I don't know. Tom is just such a serious, straightforward player. I just don't see that happening. But it's possible. But yeah, I agree. There's no way around it. It doesn't look like, they're not even giving Turkey the time of day. But I think this gives Italy a lot of options instead of moving to Venice. Yeah, they're not fooling anybody, but he can, if something goes wrong, still pick up Tunis. If they do want to switch it up, I like the modified key where I move to Budapest, but that's if you're fighting Russia, so it doesn't even matter. But yeah, it gives Italy a lot more options, I think, here. It gives them some defense too.
Well, Italy's either gonna, get into Serbia unless he's bounced, or stay in Trieste. This is, Italy's starting out well, even if it is anti-Turkey. I think if it was arranged or not arranged, I think this is a good move on Italy's part. I think even Umble suggested making that move yesterday, no matter what. And I don't think that's a bad one.
I really agree. And this kind of allows me to circle back to Tom. I mean, I really think that he was treated a little unfairly in previous assessments. He actually is a very, very personable player. He has such an arsenal of folksy expressions. Like, you feel like you're just sitting on like the porch with some uncle with a straw hat on or something.
No, that's me.
Yeah, you guys are similar in that way. Yeah, you guys are similar with the folksiness. And he is, while he can be conservative, I mean, Stitch is, I wonder if you remember the infamous season 3 game 34. We didn't go along with it, but he was pushing us to do that triple attack on France when you were England and I was Italy. If he leads the attack, he's daring.
He's very, very good with logic, and he's very persuasive. I definitely said that. I just said that he doesn't really, I don't know, he doesn't give you a buy-in with the feeling. So he doesn't really go out of the way to make an emotional connection and make it a sentimental pitch. He always makes it logical. This is what we're going to do. This is the best course of action. And he sells it very, very well, like very well. So it's just a different way of playing. And it just feels like everything's stripped down to a logical point of view instead of a personal relationship point of view. That was all.
Well, I mean, I'm thrilled to see. I mean, what I hope is a kind of a little bit of an unorthodox kind of Austrian Italian alliance. It's really the most dynamic alliance, in my opinion. And the trust that it forces you to build early allows you to really pull off some spectacular moves to really bamboozle people later on. So yeah, I mean, I feel bad for Conk. By all accounts, he seems like a delightful person, but it does not bode well for him.
On the other hand, if there's someone to bamboozle in that scenario, a lot of times it's Russia. Sometimes I guess it could be Austria. But if it's an AI and you're bamboozling Russia, Village Idiot isn't the kind of player to be bamboozled. He's very capable of trying to work with Conk and switch things up if he needs to.
Yes, that's very true as well. I mean, he did. I mean, not both powers not going into Galatia is always an impressive feat to me. And again, the kind of same idea, that is that initial kind of leap of faith. But you're right, we'll see. And that is something I need to keep in mind with the finals, is that you only need 10 centers. These alliances can change every turn.
Well, and Superstition with tribute scoring. With tribute scoring, that's huge.
It's very daring by Austria. No Austria survived without doing a hedgehog. So it was a very aggressive position for them. Gives the AI a really good chance, assuming Austria isn't getting stabbed, which right now, except for Italy, it's in a very good position.
Yeah, as Austria, I can't recall ever almost not moving Vienna to either Galatia or Tyrolia. It's just, that's your defensive army. You just kind of guess which way the aggression might be coming from, or you have some plan going. So yeah, I mean, in a vacuum, I would say it's a poor move, but it seems to be working out. And if I recall, this guy is a gunboat master, right? So what could go wrong?
Well, he made the finals of this too, so he clearly has some diplomatic ability.
Oh,
All right. Last night, the debate between Humble and myself was whether or not you would see any kind of coordinated EG effort, if anything, with the two Europeans, but that didn't happen. I mean, I think England moves are extremely standard. France's moves are, I think, right now the most modern variant, the supported move into Burgundy, and Munich clearly doesn't try for Burgundy, goes to Ruhr, and doesn't have any problems in Tyrolia. So, I mean, it's hard to know what's going on there.
well, why don't we begin with France? What do you guys think?
Well, that
Fine.
definitely gives you the most idea of what's going on was through France.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to kind of like circle around from the situation kind of in the Eastern Mediterranean we're talking about, there are actually some significant kind of after effects of France's opening move. So, for instance, the only way to take Portugal would be to move the fleet out of the mid-Atlantic, right? So unless they want to forego a build, they're not going south coast of Spain. That means that Turkey has even less prospects of some kind of pressure, right, to relieve his situation. If Turkey does have some kind of larger plan or can talk his way out of it, then that's ultimately a good thing because you don't want France stopping up the Mediterranean while you're trying to roll out your fleets. So there's that, right? France is not threatening that theater at all.
Well, he could. If Marseille moves to Spain in the fall and Mid-Atlantic goes to West, that's, I think, what happened in Season 4 finals on the Western Triple. I'm not discounting a one yet.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting, right? That would be interesting. I will also say, I mean, I know this is. I actually listened to your conversation with Umble, and I know the supported move into Burgundy is all the rage, and far be it for me to, criticize a world champion when I have never even played face to face, right? The supported move into Burgundy, it just seems excessive to me, right? You only need one army to keep Burgundy clear, and I absolutely agree with keeping Burgundy clear. That's your wall. You don't want people getting into the interior of France. It's like England in that respect. But if you, for instance, move to Gascony, you can actually convoy your army over to Portugal. You can retain control of the Mid-Atlantic. I don't know. I just feel like it puts your armies in a kind of less dynamic position.
Well, I think the logic is to be a kingmaker or to get Belgium, to be a player for Belgium as opposed to just potentially bouncing in Burgundy.
Well, no, I think this is a fair move. So it doesn't look like he can read the players very well. And being the number one seed, there's obviously they're going to be a target. So even if he is believing the people around him, he may still have that underlying fear. So by taking Burgundy, you don't just bounce. You have power. But like Audacious Hand was saying, it doesn't put you in play versus Italy or England very well. So it's a very anti-German move. But it looks like it's mostly out of fear because moving to Gascony is a wait and see, and it's fine. But if you have 3 people attacking you, there's only so much that you're gonna want to bounce while having someone right in your face. Burgundy shuts everybody out. So if we're only moving to 10, maybe all he wants to do is hold his borders and sit at 6 for a while. It might be a good move.
I mean, regardless of what he does, I do always feel with France, it's so defensible. But once you get beyond your Iberian centers, it's very hard to expand from there. So you're probably going to spend a year or two breaking out, right? So you might as well take those centers slowly, maybe be a little bit more cautious. and it is true. I had forgotten that he's the number 1 seed, as apparently wants to do. So yeah, perhaps he doesn't want to get gangbanged as I was, and how I suppose you were too, Stitches.
Twice.
It's hard being number 1. It's hard, yeah.
I'm just too aggressive.
I was just the fluffer for Paula. It's okay. Look, traditional moves by Germany here, I would think. What do you think of the move to Ruhr? And obviously, he wasn't anti-England. He didn't move the fleet to Holland. I mean, I think you see the more traditional opening from Kiel to Denmark.
Right. I think that moving a fleet to Holland isn't even anti-England. To me, is just foolish. I mean, I guess if you're trying to pointedly take yourself out of, assure Russia that you will absolutely not block Sweden. But it's interesting, right? I mean, he's tempted to move back to Munich to cover it. France is probably making sweet promises of some kind. I mean, if it was me, I would do everything in my power just to go for that blitz and get the 3 centers, personally. But
if you get 3, do you build 3?
I would go for the full blitz. I would try to use the full extent of my diplomacy to take Belgium, Holland, and Denmark. I think that taking Munich early for any power is fairly foolish. Of course, this is also coming from someone who regularly takes Munich as Italy, so I'm a complete hypocrite. But
I mean, it's there, right?
So, Babo, I interviewed the last year's finalists, and I got. Now I'm going to call you Stitious. I feel like I'm one of the cool guys now. I got Stitious's interview in there as England. Babo played Germany. They didn't really get along that well, but Babo said like 5 times, and he even said at the end, he goes, "I just want to say this. Germany must always have a strong Austria. Germany and Austria must play as one." This was his big point that he made, and that played right away into whether or not you should bounce Sweden. I remember that move, Don, where you tried to take Sweden, I believe, in season 3 from Babo. Maybe it was fall. I can't remember, but that move, am I right in thinking it failed or it worked?
I took it from Max, but they ended up taking it back because I couldn't handle it from both of them.
All right. So in this situation here, where you see presumably an AIR alliance with a Turkey that may get resolved very fast, does Germany bounce or not bounce? And what are the arguments that Russia would try and make to Germany about that?
Well, one of the big deals is that it's not in Galicia, so I think Russia's a shoo-in for Sweden. I don't see a bounce happening. There's just nothing there, and there's not a lot of gains right now for Russia to have other than Sweden. They may not even get Romania, so I think it's best for Germany right now to have Russia in its corner, especially with an aggressive France. England's opening north, so you could have an EF. So I see Russia walking right in.
You agree, Audacious?
I have to say I don't. I mean, once again, in the finals, I mean, I see his logic, but bouncing Russia and Sweden is such a matter of course, to the point where a lot of Russian players won't even be upset about it. It'll be something that is almost expected from Germany, which is actually why I find that I always forget what the kind of historical name for it is, but I always call it the Swedish switcheroo, right? Where Russia moves to the Baltic Sea, sucking that fleet into Sweden, and then England lands the army in Denmark. Always beautiful to see that, and actually has a very high success rate, again, because of just how perfunctory, right, that bounce is. And with these players, this being the finals, I see them bouncing. Part of that is exactly as you said, right? That, generally with good players, Austria and Germany, there's going to be some significant lines of communication between them. Austria finds Russia useful right now. So you can always play the game where Germany is passively limiting Russia while Austria benefits from Russian cooperation. Yeah, I see it as most likely a block.
Anything to say from either of you on England's moves, particularly taking Norway with either the fleet or the army?
Yeah. So this is one of my pet peeves. This is a really common opening now, where the army moves to York. I call it kind of the Yorkie opening because it reminds me of a trembling and cowardly little dog.
I think I'm gonna say that from now on. I know people call me bad for moving to EDI, but it gives you so many more options.
It gives you.
And if you have a good relationship with France, you don't need York. Yeah, it saves you a stab, but you can block it with North. And I know you don't want. Yeah, I know you don't want to leave, but God, no one. The idea that someone's gonna move to the Channel is so remote. It's like, keep your options open.
Well, I moved to the Channel as France, but
well, we're crazy.
But I will say, if you think France is going to move to the Channel, then you move to the Channel. Or if you have a France who seems like a wild card, then force the standoff. It's a much better defensive play than just scrambling around with an army hoping that, no one lands anything. If they're going to attack England, they're going to be coordinated, right? It's going to be Germany and France and likely Russia. And if you don't block them out of the Channel, then you are dead. Right?
Yeah, there's not much you can do anyways.
Yeah, so if you want to open defensively, I say open to the Channel. And a lot of people push back really hard. To me, it just seems like, I don't know. It just seems a little bit how should I put this nicely? Help me find a good adjective, guys.
Pedestrian.
Pedestrian, there we go. Thank you.
Do you think England will convoy or try to convoy the army to Belgium, or convoy to Norway? And any thoughts on your preferred? They say on DBN Network, Belgium is where English armies go to die. Your thoughts on the importance of Belgium to England?
Belgium is where English armies go to solo, in my opinion. But I mean, it's like Stitches said, right? I mean, if you go to EDI, you just have so many more options. But judging from the kind of very careful kind of hedging their bets opening, I would say, yeah, probably put the army in Norway. I will say, Village Idiot, I've never played with them. I've heard all the nice things that people have said about him. So I assume that he isn't one of these Russians, but I notice a lot of Russian players are really a little too free and easy with allowing that army into Norway. And as soon as an army gets into Scandinavia, you start thinking that can get into Mother Russia, that can become a raider.
Well, he preserved his options by moving Moscow to Sev, knowing it would bounce.
Do you think he knew it would bounce?
I'm 100%. I mean, isn't that? I mean, I almost see every game Black Sea bouncing.
Yeah,
70% of the time. Just depends on how he negotiated it, but it's plausible deniability to say, "Oh, I didn't know that would bounce." So. And if it doesn't bounce, then he's got a huge leg up by having the Black Sea. But you looking at Turkey's moves, I highly doubt there was any strict negotiation about demilitarizing Black Sea. As far as the English army, though, I really like it right now. England can be courted by everybody. I mean, Russia can do an over the top where they can, if it's think it's getting bounced, you know, they can get Denmark. It's definitely, if people are afraid of Village Idiot, drop it into Norway. Right now, he can use Germany or France to get him into Belgium. So it really has his pick of ally, and England's in a super good spot.
So here are what the pieces look like right now for the fall. And we like to play a little prediction game here. So, Audacious, you take us where you want to go and give us some predictions of what you think we'll see in the fall.
Oh dear. Well, I suppose.
Let me ask it this way: does Budapest support Ukraine into Romania, allowing Russia to continue to bounce Ankara in the black?
So next time I'll just drop a sandbox ahead of time because this is you know how I like to overthink things. Does Budapest
do you want me to go first?
Yeah, why don't you go first?
All right, so this is me being exciting about this. So if I really wanted to move this forward, I would let Russia support itself into Romania with the army, just because, or maybe even with the fleet if they want to do an attack so they can build in Sevastopol. It's no threat to Austria with a fleet in Romania. Then you could put I don't know if you'd want to do the fleet. I think you could put Serbia into Greece and then drop Ionian in the AEG if you wanted to swiftly take Turkey out. It's not a very good position to have your fleet behind this. So I'm just anticipating a normal Austrian move. Oh no.
Well,
That's weird.
then do Trieste and Bulgaria bounce in Serbia? If you're Turkey, do you even attempt to mess with Romania?
No, I think you really have to move to Serbia to try to get that bounce to keep everything away. Budapest could support Trieste into Serbia and just make sure that doesn't happen, but I don't know.
Or vice versa. I'm sure Austria is looking for the other. I'll support you into Serbia.
Yeah, but people usually don't like giving up a home center versus Serbia itself. And then having an army behind. Budapest is a little bit more aggressive than Trieste in general. So when you're doing an AI, it's just nice to have a front. I don't know.
I remember watching your game where you played in one of these virtual Nexus tournament, and if I'm not mistaken, you moved to Trieste as Italy, and Serbia moved to Greece, Budapest moved to Serbia, and you moved to Budapest. Am I right in thinking that? That's what
No,
you
I
did?
was Austria. It was my plan, and he tried to bounce Serbia. I had Serbia support Albania to Greece, and then I had actually bounced in Galicia with my Vienna, and I had pushed him into Budapest. So it gave us a extreme front, and it gave us the best position possible. I don't think they're really needing a strong Russian opposition to use Budapest like that. But yeah, they have a lot of options of which centers to give up and how fast they want to play. I'm thinking Tom might just go for the convoy and move it slow. He might even just jump into Albania, but we'll see.
Okay, and you've had some time to think about the Balkans. Are you better than the actual Balkans in figuring out the Balkans?
Well, that's a low bar. But yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with the latter kind of with Stitch's rethink of, I mean, what I would do is different from what I think will happen. I will say, he probably will convoy the army to Tunisia, not because that army is going to be more useful against Turkey than moving to the GNC, but quite the opposite, because it allows you to stay in the Ionian Sea, right? Which is one of those kind of fetish tiles, right? It's one of those tiles where you always just want to occupy, you always want to be there. I mean, I see, if this is indeed a kind of deep Austrian-Italian kind of alliance or scheme here, I mean, I really do see Italy benefiting more. He seems to be already taking kind of steps that are slightly inefficient, that are going to be effective against Turkey, but at the same time are not going to benefit Austria, right, in any kind of rapid way.
So if I know Conk at all, Conk is a never give up, never say die. I'm calling him the people's choice. Can he make any credible pitch to Italy to convoy Apulia into Greece?
He certainly can. He could also support into Serbia. He could support Italy into Serbia as well. I mean, there's all sorts of options. I mean, once you start playing with that, I mean, it really rapidly becomes Austria's nightmare. I will say, this is one way, for instance, that someone like me is just very different from someone like Umble, who's just, more of like a mid-game stab artist, wants to stay behind, the shroud of anonymity. Is that if you find someone that you can actually pull something daring and original and inspiring off with, that's a precious thing, and it's not something you just throw away because Conk comes in and offers a support here or there, particularly because he is Turkey, right? That said, Tom's smart. One thing when I'm playing Italy, and this is going to
well, Tom's not going to fear Conk. He's experienced enough to play, so that's a big thing. A lot of people would fear him, but I don't think Tom will.
Right. I mean, like the thing about Italy. So the one thing I've learned, and Italy is actually a power I've had a lot of success with. I think I might be the most successful Italian player on Nexus. And one thing in any war on Turkey is that Italy is the key to unlocking Turkey, right? If you don't have Italy, you cannot crack that nut, and you will just pound your head against it for a long time. Russia and Austria cannot do it in any kind of timely fashion. So, Tom might be, I really do like what he's doing here. He's kind of, if you're Italy, you've got to, don't be the little kind of Italian beggar going from door to door. Realize that you're valuable, have some self-respect. They need you. They need you to take Turkey out. Don't just do everything for the alliance, take your centers first, build up your defenses, like be strong, right? And I kind of see that happening here. I kind of like what he's doing. But who knows who's in the driver's seat here? It could be Austria.
What do you guys think about the Army Moscow? Do you think it goes north? Or do you think he bounces again in the black and keeps it there to preserve options?
I think it holds. I don't think he needs to do anything with the army. If he has a threat in the north for a convoy, he'll build north. And if the south opens up, then he'll need to build south. And there's no German threat. Moscow is just extremely powerful, just sitting there. It can go any way it needs to. I don't think it has to move. He has no
and under your theory, if Sev goes to Rum, you're going to want to leave Sev open for a build.
Correct. And so he can build north or south depending on where the threat is. He has no threats. He's playing masterfully. I've seen him play Russia before. He does a good job. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, maybe if the English convoy to Norway, that'd be his only threat right now. So yeah, why move Moscow and scare somebody? There's just no reason. I mean, he could even hold a build if he really wanted to.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. I mean, there's been games I feel like I've played with Russia where I've held a army in Moscow the entire game. You can defend all your home centers from there. You can rush it to any front, and that's always the problem with Russia is you get overextended on one of your fronts, you're basically, it's analogous to being two different powers allied, right, in the north and south. So yeah, I could see a hold or maybe like a throwaway move where he knows it'll probably get bounced and stay. I will say one amendment though is people always say there's no threat from Germany, or from the German perspective, there's no threat from Russia around this time in the game. And that's always short-sighted, right? It only takes a couple German builds and a blitzkrieg on Warsaw for it to become a problem, or just either power in the Baltic. By the mid-game, that's usually in play, but we'll see.
But yeah, but for now, why would you move it to, Livonia if you're going to build in Warsaw? If the Germans pivot, but they can't even pivot, they'd have to move back to Munich to defend, and then give up a build to go to Berlin. So it's just, right now, there's no reason to even worry about Warsaw.
Okay, so let's hit the West here for a second. Is there going to be a Western triple? Which, lots of times Germany gets 3 in a Western triple. France could get 2 theoretically, or even just 1. Your thoughts on that? Or are we going to see a traditional 2 against 1 situation? And if so, who are the 2 and who's the 1?
To me, the Western triple is it's a bit of a unicorn kind of unicorn alliance. I remember, I think, was it Umbel was talking about how Pez had used this to great effect. I did not follow that finals, but it used the great effect as France in order just to buy time to slowly creep up on your neighbors.
Yeah, well, that wasn't really a Western triple. That was Pez saying Western triple. It was really an FG, and I was a hostage. But I'm like, they're going to attack me if I don't go along.
That's a classic Western triple. Like I said, it's one of those unicorn alliances. It makes sense in theory, right? You got the Mediterranean, Central European, and Northern fronts. It's one of those things to me, like sort of like when someone offers to do a 17-17 center draw with you where your ears kind of actually perk, kind of set some alarm bells off. But I suppose it's possible. I really don't see France in an aggressive position to move into the Mediterranean, though, as you did mention, it has happened before. I also see just a very cautious little shivering Yorkie dog move from England. So I don't know if he really has the cojones to do some kind of like aggressive west to east sweep with his, fellow, wolves. And we'll really see what Germany is made of in the next season, right? It's a very conventional opening. He could, for all we know, he could just audaciously grab 3 centers and could be off to the races next season. We'll see.
Personally, okay. I see the France is
Go ahead, Stitches.
France is being really defensive. England's being very defensive. Pretty standard moves from Germany. I don't think there's anything coordinated for Western triple. You can still open up defensively and transition into that. That's totally possible. But there seems to be a little bit of mistrust in the entire West. I think if you were to call an alliance just on vague boredomness, then in the EG would be the most likely. But I don't know.
What would actually be crushing right now that I look at it would be an Eastern triple. Look at it. If you just completely flipped on Italy. Oh, anyway. No, I'm getting a little crazy there. But
I don't think Conk would go for that. No. Eastern triples definitely stifle Turkey's gains a lot.
Yeah. All right. Who winds up with Belgium?
I'm going to say Germany.
I'm going to say England. I think he might get double support in. It's really looking kind of that Burgundy move is very antagonistic.
You think they'll let him put the boots on the ground, really?
I think France will make the offer for sure. That's my guess.
That is crazy to me because to me, France, it looks like a continental power, but it's really an island power like England. You do not want armies getting in, right? It's very easy to defend. Once you get an army in Gascony and Picardy, it's sliding around like all slippery, you can't get a hold. I mean, I could see them offering to support the fleet in, or trying to pressure him to do it that way. I don't think England would go to that because, again, they limited their options by going to York. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think Francis said he's a strong alliance player. He wants to find that one person that's going to take him to the end. He knows scoring makes that unlikely, but he has to determine between the German player in England or the Italian player in Germany on pretty much which one he wants. He can wait a little while and choose Russia, but for now he needs to really have one of them in his pocket. And I think England's the choice. And especially he's already having aggressive moves towards Germany. If he wants to pick up 2 builds, he's going to have to leave England alone anyways. So yeah, I think it's an EF.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way, definitely. I think it's, once you have that army in Burgundy, Germany is absolutely no threat anymore. England always is going to be, have that little piratical thorn in your side aspect where they could get into the mid-Atlantic. They can convoy directly into your kind of hinterland. Now that he has the security of being in Burgundy, he can just leave that army in Burgundy. He can actually make England grateful while he sits in Burgundy as like with his wall there. This might be slanted just because I've had more success with an FG than with the kind of Entente. But yeah, I'm gonna say Germany. Germany hits a grand slam here and takes the Low Countries and Denmark.
Yeah, but if I want to open an FG, I would go to Picardy. Just that'd be way more nicer.
Well, we shall see. The next part of this is, and I know it's early, so it is what it is, though, gents. Which power, after one move of the first 20, would you want to be?
Italy.
Well, I have to say I would love to be Italy right now. I mean, it's not even like because I necessarily think Italy is going to win. It's just out of my own like pleasure.
Sadistic fun. Yeah.
Pleasure-seeking nature. Yeah.
He is just there. He's like, let's do it.
Oh, God. He's just, that his press is blowing up. He feels popular. Everyone's wondering what he thinks. Yeah.
But from a winning point of view, I'd probably want to be Russia. It's just the diplomacy is obviously there. It feels good. I mean, but for me, I like to play, so Italy just sounds like an adrenaline rush. So,
well, I'll go with France. Good defensive position, not going to get cracked, 2 guaranteed builds, and an excellent player to boot. So I think that I'd pick France right now with no move to the Channel, no move to Burgundy. So that tells us when we pick 3 different powers that we have the makings of a very good game. Gentlemen, before I leave, is there anything unsaid or unspoken that you'd like to say or speak?
I think we need to clean the studio because it smells like Umble in here.
I'll second that.
All right. Umble, you heard it. But on the other hand, you do sponsor this podcast, and I'm able to send my kids to college because of the free diplomacybriefing.com newsletter that you send out. So thanks for sponsoring it, Umble. Thanks to our 2 great guests, Audacious and Superstition. And we will see you on the flip side of 1901 after the winter of 1901. We will record another podcast and we'll release that after the spring. And just in case people are worried, we do not release these podcasts until after the next set of moves go through. So not that the 2nd and 6th best players on Nexus, sorry, Audacious, should worry. No one's going to be taking anyone's advice. Thank you, gentlemen, and have a good evening.
Cool. See you soon.
See you soon.